game. Like, they won't have some key pieces to their lineup, right? I think both teams are probably just trying to dial it in now, get as close to their game as they possibly can. The games are almost good. It's weird not seeing a team in your own division for 4 months, so it's maybe a reintroduction of games. Both teams have added players, changed the way they look a little bit. Both teams are still driven by the best players on their team. I don't think either team had a monumental shift in who they are. So we'll just kind of get out there and get to know each other again tonight.
What stands out about how Auston has put together another 60-goal season, and what sort of keys do you see tonight in slowing him?
Well, man, what game is it, 74? Well, he's got 60 of them, so nobody's figured that out. I'm not the smartest guy in the league. I'm just going to put a bunch of guys out and hope they defend the hell out of it if we can. I mean, you're not stopping them. Just hope he scores the next night, not the night that you're there in town. So, yeah, I mean, a brilliant, brilliant player. And, in that elite category of players around the league that you don't stop. He's going to get his. You hope your goaler has a good night. You hope the posts are a little thinner at their end than at ours, and play hard.
In your experience, how much tone setting can take place when you're playing a potential playoff opponent, like from a physical standpoint, these games down the stretch?
I think none, like zero effect. Truly, like we got a certain style of hockey that we play. They have one. We're both going to play it tonight, and then if we see each other in 2 weeks, nobody's going to remember this game except for you guys. Like, truly. We're going to play hard. They're going to play hard. It's game 74-ish. I think, what are they at, 73, 74? Okay. So both teams have had strong enough years that they got to play 8 more games for the playoffs. And yeah, everybody wants to feel good, but everybody wants to get to the playoffs pretty hard. The difference in the standings between Boston, us, and maybe even Tampa is probably based on the schedule. And some luck on injuries, right? Like how many back-to-backs you had, all that kind of stuff. So we're all in the same pool of teams. I think what's important, maybe, I'm not talking about Toronto, what's important for us is that we feel that maybe in our last 5 games we're coming back to our game. You can't play it all year. We were really consistent with it. Then we had a couple of weeks where we wobbled a little bit. We were inconsistent. And it's not in wins and losses, it's style of play, right? Rush game opened up. That's not how we look. I feel in the last 5, even with some injuries and a bit of a tough grind, I think we're coming back to it. So that's the key for us tonight here, is to look the way we're supposed to look.
Let me say this thing, Paul. Do you prefer, though, that you get the Leafs twice in the last 2 weeks, or rather than not having seen them since December, knowing that they're likely going to be in the
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if I truly don't know if it matters. Like, I'm not a huge believer in momentum or in regular season success. I mean, I've been in playoff series with teams that we didn't beat all year, and we beat them in the playoffs, and the opposite is true too. So I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to lower the importance of this game. I also have an understanding here things will occasionally be made bigger than they are. No, well, once back in the 50s. So I think, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters because, like, it didn't matter between game 3 and game 4 in that series last year. We had won game 3. We didn't win game 4. What happened? What the hell happened? That's what I feel about momentum. The puck drops and you have an opportunity for momentum, and that's between games, between regular seasons. Teams have come back from 3 in a playoff series. How the hell does that happen? Well, momentum doesn't matter. So I do think this. I'm going to bet that both teams are excited about this game tonight, because I thought the best game that we've played in the last couple of weeks was the Boston game at home. It was a hell of a game. Shots were 21-21, and there wasn't a boring 30 seconds in the night, at least from the bench. I think we're going to see that kind of energy here tonight from both teams. So it's a good game to watch.
How many years in the league, Paul? Not to make you feel old.
Thank you for that. Now, you were there right with me, so you're not that much younger than I am.
It's a good comeback. Parity in this league, we've talked about it for a long time, but when you truly look at it, are we getting Vegas, Edmonton in the first round, Florida, Toronto, Rangers, Tampa? What are the seeds truly mean at this point?
I don't know if there's even a remote advantage in it. I'm not sure that home ice has the remote. The only thing we were talking about it the other day, maybe there's an advantage for the 2 teams that get in the final, the one that doesn't have to fly across the country. That might be the only advantage, that you're not used to possibly if it's a West Coast and an East Coast team, there's a time zone change. And one team is going to suffer it more at the start of a series after the end of 6 weeks of beating the hell out of each other. Maybe there's an advantage there. But you look at Toronto's home record and Toronto's road record, almost identical to ours. They're both really good road teams. So what's the advantage? I think in terms of the whole idea of parity, this is as good and exciting a year for playoff hockey as we've seen. And then those hot teams that are good. You want Nashville right now, right? You scratch and claw in the West to get to a 1 seed, and that's what you get. There's the door prize. So good for hockey fans, good for people who love hockey. There's a whole bunch of really good teams, and it is open, I think.
Paul, you talk about finding your game. Sheldon was vocal in the media last week about his team's game and finding it. You've been that guy in the past. When is the right button? When is it the right time to push that button? How do you know as a coach?
I guess there's possibly been times that would be calculated, that you would say, okay, I got to score. And I don't know that you would ever know that necessarily. The playoffs are different, right? Regular season playoffs are different. You wouldn't know that necessarily by how I come out, because mostly I just come out and tell you how I feel. And the other night, it was just, I get it. We had clinched the playoffs, and I was sour, and I didn't want to talk about the playoffs because I couldn't find nice things to say. It wasn't going to happen, so I had let them say whatever they wanted to say, and I thought that was a fair compromise. I think it's, in truth, I think it's a whole lot harder up here than it is where I am. I think you are more calculated here in my time here, a brief time here. This is a completely different animal than I deal with. I have the luxury of being able to kind of go out and say how I feel.
How different is it for you when you have a team last year that kind of sneaks in versus this year where you're comfortably in all year long?
Well, it's quite a bit different. I do think, though, quietly, I felt from January 2nd after the first period against the Rangers, we were a much better team, minus the game in here in March. We weren't very good. But we were way better than people know. We were just off the radar. We probably at that time, the back half of the year, we would have been within 1 or 2 points of Toronto and Carolina. So we were pretty good. I think we were very worried about our start this year, and rightfully so. And to Bill Zito's credit, they brought in 3 defensemen that are veteran guys, and that's saved what could have been a very messy start, or we might have been in the exact same spot that we were. And I almost thought we might be at the end of the season last year with all the injuries. We could be in real trouble again. And then we had a real hard, heavy push right through till about 3 weeks ago. And then a whole bunch of teams kind of know they're making the playoffs. I think we came off our intensity. We play a very hard game. And what I mean is it's hard to play the game that we play, and it's hard to play it every night. I think what I've liked the most about our group is when we've fallen off it, we've done it in stages. So we've done it over 4 or 5 games. We've stayed out of the good one night, bad one night, good one night, bad one night. We've had 4 or 5 games we didn't like, and then we've learned from them. So I think we're coming out of it. This will be a tough test. We're going to end this road trip with 10 games in 17 days, and this will be a really good test for us. So, but there is a different mentality, absolutely, right? Even in terms of how you run the bench at this time of year, and your tone, and when you change your tone, and when you change that tact, I guess.
Why did you opt for a full skate today? And considering the hard game that you just talked about, how do you manage kind of the energy levels down the stretch?
So we didn't skate yesterday, which is in the 10-game block. We won't practice again until the 8th of April in our schedule right now. And we full skate if we don't after. What was the second half of that? I'm sorry.
How do you manage the energy down the stretch considering the hard game that you played?
We manage recovery. We try not to manage the energy in games. We want to go as hard as we possibly can.
What have you learned about Tarasenko coaching him that you didn't already know?
Well, the thing that you know is he's got this shot from right around that dot, probably a 10-foot box in there, and he scored a bunch of goals, and he scores from practice. Right? And then you start watching it every day to figure out how he keeps doing that. And then you never figure that out, or you'd have been doing that yourself. So what I is how conscientious he is about the game, and you know what, this is kind of, how does it come off a horrible stereotype? It's true of a lot of the Russian-trained players. They understand the game defensively very well. My experience over there, they're all really pretty smart defensive players. So he's fit in. I've moved him left wing, right wing on 3 different lines. And now I think we've settled in on something that we like, and he's on the right side He's a very, very smart defensive player. He reads the play very, very quickly. That would be the thing I think I could have anticipated based on his lineage. But it's true to form. He's a good defensive player.
I've been tonight, Coach.
Correct. All set then.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.